So just to let you know, no job is safe. The Disney CEO has been fired. That's Bob Chapek. And in fact, the old CEO is coming back. That's Bob Iger. And this is a crazy story. Let's get into it. Look at this. Here's the headline. Disney brings back Bob Iger, or Robert Iger, say, but same thing, after ousting Chapek as CEO. And this is really crazy because Chapek, as it wasn't really there that long. I remember when they were doing interviews with Iger, like he was still kind of hanging around the business and stuff like that, but then they like did all these interviews saying, oh, how does it feel to leave? And he's like, oh, I'm so happy to be retired. And like now they're bringing him back. And one of the things that's going on is their last earnings report was just a really big disappointment. I think they had like a $1.5 billion loss in terms of their streaming, and it was like direct to consumer kind of stuff. And so that was just too big of a loss. And one of the things that was going on with many companies is they just sort of got way overzealous in hiring and spending, and certainly come back to bite them now. Now, here is the statement from Disney. We'll see what they said, the official statement, so we'll read it together. The Walt Disney Company, ticker symbol DIS, announced today that Robert A. Iger is returning to lead Disney as Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately. And it's just kind of weird. It was just announced about an hour or so ago, and it's like, why are we doing it now on a weekend? Who knows? They must have really not liked that Chapek guy. Mr. Iger, who spent more than 4 decades at the company, including 15 years as its CEO, has agreed to serve as Disney CEO for 2 years. So this is temporary. He's old. I think he's like 71 or something like that. So I mean, I'm sure they're paying him a pretty penny. They don't say here, but you pay someone enough money, they'll come back. Has agreed to serve Disney for 2 years with the mandate from the board to set the strategic direction for renewed growth and to work closely with the board in developing a successor to lead the company at the completion of his term. So they got 2 years to find someone else. I'm sure they'll look for someone inside would be my guess. Mr. Iger succeeds Bob Chapek, who has stepped down from his position. Here's a quote. We thank Bob Chapek for his service to Disney over his long career, including navigating the company through an unprecedented challenges of the pandemic, said Susan Arnold, chairman of the board. The board has concluded that as Disney embarks on an increasingly complex period of industry transformation, Bob Iger is uniquely situated to lead the company through this pivotal period. Basically, they don't trust you, Bob. They trust the other Bob better. That's how it goes. Mr. Iger has deep respect of Disney's senior leadership team, most of whom, well, the way they say it sounds like that Chapek doesn't have any respect for the senior leadership team, just the way that they state that. Most of whom he worked closely with until his departure as executive chairman 11 months ago. And he is greatly admired by Disney employees worldwide, all of which will allow seamless transition of leadership. It's kind of funny how they say it. They're like, Mr. Iger, leadership, the board likes him, the employees like him. Chapek, people just don't like you. Just how they word it. That's how I'm reading it. I'm curious if you guys agree with it. I'm kind of making a joke, but this sounds how it sounds like to me. The position of the chairman of the board remains unchanged, with Ms. Arnold serving in that capacity. And then here's a quote from Iger. I am extremely optimistic for the future of this great company and thrilled to be asked by the board to return as its CEO. Disney and its incomparable brands and franchises hold a special place in the hearts of so many around the globe, most especially in the hearts of our employees whose dedication to this company and its mission is an inspiration. I am deeply honored to be asked again to lead this remarkable team with a clear mission focused on creative excellence to inspire generations through unrivaled, bold storytelling. So that's really interesting that he is emphasizing storytelling here. And, one of the things that I had noticed, and I'm sure you guys noticed this as well, these sort of second batch of Marvel films, which is part of Disney, after the whole Infinity War thing ended, which just haven't been very good. Now, can we blame Chapek for everything? Who knows, right? But I'll just say they just haven't been very good. Also, too, on top of that, you have to deal with the pandemic, with the parks are closing, so it's a really tough time. And also, too, you're dealing with inflation. And one of the things that I think is a big challenge for a company like Disney, and sort of why I like talking with you guys about this stuff, is just understand business. Also, too, I used to work in Hollywood. I lived in LA. Disney is a fun place. But going into recession, something like a Disneyland, Disney World, or Disney Cruises, they make a ton of money off cruises. Is that something that people are going to want to do, right? Now, before when we had talked about this last year, there was a whole a bunch of hope for reopening. Everyone was excited to get to the parks. And in fact, the parks were full for that. There was that brief period when they started opening, and like people were just packing there, just getting sick of sitting around the house. But then comes a point of like, well, I am sick of sitting around the house, but I don't have a job anymore, so I can't really afford to go to Disney. And that's going to be the trick. And one of the things that it's been very interesting about Disney's strategy, and we've talked about this a lot on the channel actually, where things are just too expensive these days, right? We all know that. But one of Disney's sort of strategies has been changing it to where we'll bring less people to the parks, but charge them more money. And the basic idea of that would be to give people a better experience, because think of it this way. If you make the prices really cheap and everything cheap, more people come, right? So you get more volume, but then the people who are actually there will have a less enjoyable experience. So the idea is that maybe bring people to the park, have prices a little bit higher to chase some people away, and then conceptually, I say conceptually, people will spend more money because they'll say like ride more rides and stuff like that. Who knows, and spend more money on meals. Now, one of the things that it was interesting about Disney as well, we talk about this with other products, is the concept of shrinkflation. That's the idea that you're going to raise prices but like decrease the quality of service, and that will play out in any number of ways at Disney. I want to read through some of these things that they were doing at Disney, and for anyone who's a big Disney fan, please chime in. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know a lot of people out there have annual passes if you live in Florida or California, you know about this stuff. And just what do you think about the direction of the parks? Now, I already shared my direction of the movies. I just don't think that, and we're using Marvel movies as an example, just haven't been that great in the sort of post-Infinity War stuff. And that Infinity War stuff was really cool. And it's hard to beat that. And I was really looking forward to the new batch, but they've been lackluster. I would say, before we get to parks, I would say on streaming wise, I really liked the Loki show. That was probably one of my favorite shows. I know The Mandalorian's popular. I'm not thrilled about it. It's not a terrible show by any means, but it's just okay. We've been watching the Ando one. I'm trying to think if there's any other Disney shows. The werewolf show has been really good for Disney. But I'm just thinking to myself, they've just been spending a lot of money on shows that it costs a lot, and they, for the amount you pay, you get decent value for the shows, I would say. But is it something that I need to keep? And that's something that a lot of people have questions of, because I already have my Netflix, I already got my Disney. Do I need to get other things as well? Am I going to cut some of this stuff, and am I going to park, cruise, etc.? So that's what I was saying. Like, going to recession, this is not something that is necessarily required that people have to spend money on. It's all discretionary, right? So people may cut back their spending, and so companies like Disney may struggle. There's certainly a chance of that. I don't think Disney's gonna go bankrupt or anything, but they may struggle. And the other thing is one of the things with Disney is they have a lot of employees. So as wages go up and they have so many people on staff, it affects them quite a bit. So let's read some of the details of these sort of changes they've been making to the parks. And like I said, I'll want to get your guys' thoughts on this as well. The results reflect a major shift on Disney's part, where the company is focused less on maximizing the quantity of visitors and more on increasing how much money each visitor spends. We talk about this, but just going over it again. An approach the company refers to as yield management. So that's what they refer to. I think it's pretty interesting, yield management. So yield as much money you can from your customers as possible. Keep that in mind for those of you who study business. It's a great phrase, yield management. Improving the visitor experience, the thinking goes, will prompt guests to spend more hours and therefore more money at the parks because they're having such a great time. Moreover, we'll look at this. The biggest change in the past 2 years, and the most lucrative for Disney, is the introduction of the smartphone app called Genie Plus that costs $15 per day. I have not used this Genie Plus, so if anyone has any experience with this, please share your thoughts on if it's worth the $15 extra day. This is on top of the park admission fee. On top of the price of admission, it allows park goers to skip unreserved lines for some attractions, which company refers to as standby. But Genie Plus doesn't cover everything. To skip standby lines at most sought-after attractions, including some Star Wars and Guardians of the Galaxy themed rides, reservations now cost an additional $10 to $17. Standby waits for popular attractions can last hours. So it's kind of interesting how essentially they have a park fee, and then they charge you additional fees on top of that for certain rides to skip the lines. And I could see how some people can kind of get irritated by that. I certainly would be. I mean, you already charged me a fee, and part of the fun at Disney, the way it used to be, is you pay the price, and then you just do whatever you want. I mean, it's fun, but like, have to think, okay, do I want to spend more money on this thing? And I just would be rolling my eyes the whole time. But however, I want to hear people's thoughts on this. What do you guys think about this stuff? And I think it's a bit ludicrous. I just want to pay my fee, and it's kind of like, and you guys know this. You've been on vacation, you or anything. Like, say you go to a buffet, it's fun to just pay that one price and you just enjoy yourself. You just don't have to worry about, okay, do I want to buy that? Do I want to buy that? And I think it just adds an extra bit of transactional. But yes, Disney could make more money, and assuming people use it. So I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this. How else? Okay. At the same time, many benefits that used to be free, we're talking about shrinkflation here, from parking for certain annual pass holders to airport shuttles to magic band wristbands that serve as combination hotel, room keys, and park passes have been eliminated or now come with a price, right? So all these little things, they're trying to charge you more. They just don't do it at all. Disney has raised prices on hotels, hotel rooms, food, and merchandise over the past year as inflation and crimes. Yeah, that's certainly expected. Also, too, take a look at this. This is a big one. So the magic hour thing, basically, guys, they've reduced it to 30 minutes. It used to be an hour, and that was the big reason why you stay at the Disney hotels, because you could get into the parks early. So as you can see here, Disney offers early entry at all 4 of its Walt Disney parks each day to hotel guests, but only for 30 minutes. Before the pandemic, it was offered an hour, but only every other day. Wait, what? Evening extended hours are now only available for visitors staying at the most expensive deluxe tier of hotels. Oh, that's lame. Huh, I didn't know about that one. Evening extended hours, so you have to stay at the nice hotel if you want to go. And that was the most fun was, I don't say most fun, but it's really fun. So what we used to do when we go to Disney, we would stay there and then do the magic hour, because you go in the parks early, and then we'd come home for lunch, or come back to the hotel for lunch, and then you go back out again at night. And so basically you're avoiding all the kids and stuff in the middle of the day, and it's really fun. But this idea though that you're gonna have to spend even more to get that experience, I could see how people aren't so thrilled about that. I mean, who wants to spend more money, right? And so there's all these things going on. And the other thing too I thought was interesting is they were talking about how the annual pass is kind of a hassle for Disney, because the idea is that someone will go to the park who's an annual pass holder, maybe go for a couple hours, do one ride, have an ice cream cone, and then come home. And though that person, or remember the word is yield management, may not spend as much as, say, if you have a system to where there is no annual pass. So Disney's been trying to figure out a way to like get rid of those things. It's like been pissing off a lot of people. And again, too, we're going to recession. Do people need to go to parks, cruises, and movies? So that's what's going on with Disney. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this one. Also, too, we didn't mention that much, but ESPN, they may or may not spin that off. And there were rumors that they were going to buy like a DraftKings, but I just don't think that's going to happen. Not in this environment. There's no way. So you're probably looking at a leaner, meaner Disney. And these are all the things that are going to be happening with many companies around the country as they're going to recession. Is you're going to hear a lot of job cuts. You're going to hear a change of CEOs. And it's going to be really nasty out there. So do be prepared. So thanks again for watching. Please share your thoughts on this one. I think Disney's a fun one to talk about. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.